Test, test, test. 1, 2, 3. Yep. Okay.
Morning, everybody. Do 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 do. I think I hear it. There it is. Yay! Are you gonna welcome all the people online there, buddy? I like it. They can just see your face. It is happiness and joy. How many days left of school, kids? Do we know? I know for my kids. I'm counting them down. What? 15. Nice. Tara, how many days of school? 3. That's crazy. All right. Good morning, everybody. Ooh, I'm very loud. I'm way louder than I expected myself to be. It is so good to see you all here today. It is good to be with you. If you are joining us online, we are glad you are here as well. Today is a special day. Yes, it is Mother's Day, so we'll celebrate that. We'll talk about that a little bit later. But we also are going to take some time to celebrate our graduating seniors today. So a day full of celebration. And oh, by the way, there will be cake later on. So we're just going to eat a lot today. Before we jump into that, just a couple of quick announcements for you, which I set my sheet down with all my announcements somewhere. So Mark, I'm going to depend on you here. Maybe. Create, you've heard us talk about this. Create registration is open. It is June 25 to 27, open to all kids in kindergarten, entering kindergarten through 8th grade. So if that applies to you or somebody you love, pass on that registration information. If you want to help out, we still need a crew of volunteers to do a bunch of different things around for those few days. So if you want to help out, come talk to me. You can talk to Bethany, and we will get you set up with that, okay? Next Sunday, ready? Brace yourself. You can do it. Next week, Sunday, we're gathering at 9 a.m. It's not impossible, Sarah. I don't have kids, Sarah said. I could go anywhere. I love it. Next week, Sunday, we're going to take some time in the morning for our annual partner gathering. If you are a partner, what we call members here, or if you're curious about becoming a partner, this is a great way to learn more. We talk about all the things that are important to us and the things that are going on in the life of the branch and how we can all participate in that. So we will feed you breakfast, okay? You don't even have to bring anything. This isn't even potluck. You just show up. And if you show up in your pajamas, it's okay, all right? So 9 a.m., we'll do that for about an hour, and then we'll come up and have our worship gathering as well at 10 that morning-ish. We'll see how that timing plays out. We do need you, by the way, to sign up for that. So if you're coming, please let us know so that we make sure we have enough food for you. I would hate for you all to get here and not be fed. It's like one of my biggest nightmares, okay? So sign up so we know how much food to get. Part of that discussion of our partner gathering will be this vision document that you've heard us talking about the last couple of weeks. It is also on the back table if you haven't grabbed a copy of that. There's also a lot of ways you can join in. Part of our goal for the next, one of our goals for the next few months is to gather a bunch of information that we can use as we move forward here. So we need your help with that. There are a bunch of QR codes on the back of your sheet here. 2 of them are for branch students, which you've heard us talk about a little bit before. If you haven't done that yet, please do so. And then there's a Pathways for Connections survey. You've seen QR codes maybe out in the cafe as well. This is for everybody, so we can know what you need. So we plan things that speak to the needs of the people here. So if you could fill those surveys out, it would be so very helpful. So please do that whenever you can. I think that's it. Was there anything else up there? Oh, we're going to have more parties. We're just going to celebrate in the next couple of weeks, friends. This process of taking ownership of this building has taken far longer than we thought it was going to, but it's this close to be done. So we're throwing a party and we're going to celebrate, okay? June 2, Sunday morning, nothing you need to do, just show up and help us celebrate, all right? All right. That's all I have for announcements. We are shifting things around a little bit this morning, so we're going to start with a song. So if you can, stand up and join us in this song. Zeke and JP are going to come up and join me. It's a song that we learned last week called Take It Easy. It is a song that reminds us of God's love. Pure and simple, reminds us of God's love. Take it easy, easy. hearts. Lay down your weapons and lay down your strife. God's on your side and won't let you go, and already loves who you are. Won't ask you to be something more. Take it easy, easy. God already loves you completely. Take it easy, easy. Rest in the shade of God's wings. Take it easy, easy. God already loves you completely. Take it easy, easy. Rest in the shade of God's wings. Rest in the shade of God's wings. Rest in the shade of God's wings. Most of you can have a seat, but if you are graduating from high school in the coming weeks, I'm going to invite you to come on up front here, and we are going to celebrate you today. We're very excited to do that today. All right. For the people online, maybe you have to do like 2 rows here so everybody can see you. Can they see you online? How are we doing back there? All right. Nearly every one of these students came up to me this morning and said, "Do I have to do anything?" Here's what you have to do. Stand here and let us love on you for a little bit, because I'm going to cry. I'm so sorry. I'm not even a parent of one of them. I don't know how this is going to go. You all are finishing a really long journey, and you are taking a step into a new world, into a new journey, and we want to celebrate that with you today. We're so proud of you, of everything that you have done, of everything that you've accomplished, of who you are. You are just awesome people, and we are so blessed to have you a part of our community. So let us celebrate you for a little bit today, okay? All right. I'm going to ask you one question. All I'm going to ask is, what's next? What's after high school? It is a great and perfectly valid answer to say, I don't know what's next, or I'm just going to rest for a bit, or I'm going to school. Whatever it is, we just want to know what's going on in your life, okay? Elena, you want to start? She's like, I'm ready. I got to go. I love it.
I'm going to Grand Canyon University in Arizona to study graphic design.
I'm going to Miami University in Oxford, Ohio to study nursing.
I'm going to GRCC to study culinary, but mostly baking.
I'm going to the University of Michigan to study environmental science.
I'm going to Northwestern University to study social policy.
I'm going to GRCC to get credits. And we're
For those of you who don't know, if you graduate from a Grand Rapids high school, you get 2 years free of GRCC school, so get the credit. Well done. Smart. I should have done this first. I should have told you who all is standing up here. This is Elena Verkuyk and Audrey Frang and Sophia Ferenzi. This is Angela Lubick. Angela has been a part of our branch students program forever, like since 6th grade, right? Tara Workman and Caleb Overman. We are super, super proud of you all and can't wait for all the stories to come. And Angela, if you want to bring us treats, we're good with that too. All right. we have a couple of things for you. Mike, I saw you. Where did you go? There you are. Mike is going to say a couple of things about your time in Branch Students. And Janelle. Yay.
Good morning. Can we just pause again and just look at this crew? Maybe give them a good round of applause. Because I know they love it. I know they love it. What a milestone this is for each of you in your still young yet not young lives. Janelle and I had the privilege of starting in Branch Students with these young adults. I almost called them kiddos. They're not kiddos. They're young adults. When we started, they were freshmen, and we've now been really with them through this whole time, and it's really been such a privilege to walk this journey with them. Sorry, I have notes, or I wouldn't get any of this. We started back in the fall of 2020 when we were meeting outside at our house on our patio. In the fall, in the middle of winter, there were only a week or two that we I think canceled due to really nasty weather. And every week, Janelle and I were like, well, we're gonna set up like 10 chairs, but we probably need like 2. And then most of the time we needed 10 chairs, and it was amazing. You guys always showed up for us, and it was really, I think for us, really quite the blessing. I think those times brought so much joy into our lives. You know, for me, one of the biggest things was just listening to you all talk about your lives. Maybe you felt like we weren't really there in part of it, but we felt like we were there in part of it. And that was really, really a gift to us. And as leaders, we really hope and pray that the time that we spend with you, whether it was at Branch Students, whether it was outside of Branch Students, because we had a lot of opportunities there as well, we really felt like, or we hoped and prayed that that time was impactful to you. But there was no doubt about it that that time was impactful to us, and we're really grateful for that.
Yeah, along with being in Branch Students and having you be this group that we met with, you've also been our babysitters and our neighbors and our, people that we got coffee with and chatted with and hung out with. And there's just, I am always grateful for the way that our lives have intertwined beyond that. I've been at this church for like 17 years, which is pretty much your guys' lifetime. So as soon as you walked in these doors, we knew you, which is crazy. And I'm so grateful that you allow us to be a part of your lives, that you let me talk about prom dresses with you, that you celebrate things with us, and take selfies with me, that sort of thing. And I know that you'll probably get a lot of people saying maybe advice to you as you're going off into college and things like that, but what I just want to say is that I don't need to offer you anything except my phone number, my time. We are always here. This building is always here, but more than anything, I and Mike will make time for you whenever you need it. So anytime there's anything you need to talk about, we will be there. Because we love you, and we just want only great things for you guys.
Aw. All right, you're not done yet. Sorry. Mark is going to come up here, and Mark and Kristen and I are going to speak a blessing over you all. There's a copy of this blessing in, oh, wait, do you want gifts? Do you want gifts? All right, here. Mark, do you want to hold this? On behalf of the branch, whenever you eat something out of there. Some of those have a gift card whenever you use any of that. Remember, you're loved. We love you very, very much. All right. This is the blessing that is also a printed copy is in there. So it's called stepping through. When we stand at a threshold between, this is how much I love you.
I don't know that I'm going to be much better. When we stand at a threshold like you are between what was and what will be, we can feel unsettled. The world feels like it is shifting, and it is. But this is not cause for fear. There's no need to cling tightly and close your heart. Instead, this unsettledness is simply a precursor to the good and meaningful change God is bringing about. And so as you go through this threshold, may you remain open and pliable and ready to receive.
When we step through a threshold between what was and what will be, we can feel anticipation and excitement. While we don't know exactly what lies ahead, we do sense that there are important things for us to learn and do. We have something to contribute, a role to play. As you go through this threshold, may you offer your talents and insight, your love and passion to those around you.
When we step through a threshold between what was and what will be, we do not go through empty-handed, literally and figuratively. We carry with us the tools and gifts we've received along the way. We've been given love and kindness, skill and wisdom that not only propel us forward, but become the gifts we can offer to other people. So as you go through this threshold, may you know that we give you all of our love. We will always be cheering you on. And you will always have a place here. We love you guys. Okay. As a way of continuing this celebration, we're going to have our greeting time right now, and you can certainly greet those who are around you, but you can also come up forward and say congratulations to any of these fine students, and then we'll continue on this morning. Let's stand and greet each other. All right, how about if we start making our way back, slowly but surely. That's right, yeah. Do that right now? Sure. Who is Chris Frank? Yep. While we're in this moment of transition here, if you are a young student, if you're a young student and you're going downstairs to Branch Kids, Chris is back there waiting for you. And Mark is going to put up a blessing on the screen that we have been speaking to these young students before they go. Maybe it's in there. Maybe it didn't make it in there today. It's the next thing down, Mark, I think. We're going to do that in a moment. Here, maybe I can find it. There it is. Here it is. So let's say these words together to these students here before they leave. May your time together filled with wonder, joy, and friendship. You are loved. We'll see you in a little bit, everybody. Sarah's going to lead us in a call to worship this morning. Thanks, Sarah, for doing that. She's got her part. We have ours as well. Those words will be up on the screen here.
Good morning. As we come together on this Mother's Day, let us acknowledge the spectrum of emotions that this day may evoke, from joy and gratitude to sorrow and longing. We gather, understanding that for some, this day brings celebration and happiness, while for others it may stir feelings of grief, loneliness, or unfulfilled desires. In the midst of our varied emotions, we cling to the promise of the unchanging presence of God, who embraces us with compassion. God's love shows up, often through the presence of others, offering healing to the brokenhearted, companionship to the lonely, and joy to the weary. Just as a mother tenderly cares for her child's wounds, God tenderly tends to our hearts, offering comfort and peace in moments of pain and uncertainty. We recognize that God's presence is not limited by our emotions, but encompasses them all, offering a steady anchor amidst life's ever-changing tides. Today, as we honor mothers and acknowledge the complexity of our feelings, let us also lift up prayers of gratitude for those who have nurtured and loved us, whether they be mothers, grandmothers, aunts, friends, or mentors. May we extend grace to ourselves and to others, embracing the fullness of our emotions and finding strength in the assurance that God is with us through every joy and every sorrow. And so we gather here today, leaning on the faithfulness of God to meet us wherever we are, offering comfort, hope, and peace. Amen.
Thanks, Sarah. It's a good way to end. That call to worship feeds right into what we're going to be talking about today, which is the faithfulness of God. Before we kind of dive into that, though, let me just draw your attention perhaps to things you may have noticed or may have no way of noticing. You may have noticed landscaping outside in the front of the building, which looks lovely and beautiful. It's part of the list of things that we are trying to pay attention to make this space more hospitable to folks. And so some of those things that are on the list are visible like that. Other things are not, like the nearly $5,000 or so that got spent this week on fixing some spots in the flat roof that covers most of the building. And there's nothing I hate more than spending money on a roof, you know. You'd never see it, but it's obviously pretty darn important. So there are things happening that you may see and things happening that you might not see, but all of it is it's part of our collective effort to, again, make this space more hospitable, a space that can be not only used by us, but by our partners and by the community as a whole. So thank you for whatever part you play in making that possible. It's a gift. So we've been talking about transformation the last number of weeks, and we're going to kind of finish that conversation here this morning. I want to share a couple of stories from Peter's life. I had originally thought that this sermon would be a sermon in which we looked at maybe a half a dozen or more stories from Peter, because there are lots of stories about him in the New Testament. But that ended up, as I started to write it, maybe an hour-long sermon, and I thought that was probably ill-advised. So we're going to look at two stories today, and two principles about transformation that stem from those stories. Not true. We're actually going to talk about three principles, but two of them to get started. Here's the kind of principle of this morning. The historic universal paths of spiritual transformation are two: great love and great suffering. It's from Richard Rohr. And I think we'll see these play out in the life of Peter here as we look at these two stories. Great love, not meaning sentimental, getting lost in each other's eyes sort of love, although it could include that, but love in any concrete form, like great generosity. Great generosity is great love, yes? Because love is selfless always, and generosity is selfless. Great kindness, even great awe and wonder can be connected to the great love God has for us. So great love can be one of the ways in which we are moved to change, and then also great suffering, great difficulty, the hard moments of life. Rohr is saying that these two tend to be the spaces where we are changed, through which we are changed. So let's look at a couple of stories. This first one's from Luke 5, and it's the first story we have of Peter. One day as Jesus was preaching on the shore of the Sea of Galilee, great crowds pressed in on him to listen to the word of God. And he noticed two empty boats at the water's edge, for the fishermen had left them and were washing their nets. Stepping into one of the boats, Jesus asked Simon, who later gets renamed as Peter, so this is Peter here. He asked Simon, its owner, to push it out into the water. So he sat in the boat and taught the crowds from there. And when he had finished speaking, he said to Simon, "Now go out where it is deeper and let down your nets to catch some fish." "Master," Simon replied, "we worked hard all last night and didn't catch a thing. But if you say so, I'll let the nets down again." And this time their nets were so full of fish they began to tear. A shout for help brought their partners in the other boat, and soon both boats were filled with fish and on the verge of sinking. When Simon Peter realized what had happened, he fell to his knees before Jesus and said, "Oh, Lord, please leave me. I'm such a sinful man." For he was awestruck by the number of fish they had caught, as were the others with him. His partners James and John, the sons of Zebedee, were also amazed. Jesus replied to Simon, "Don't be afraid. From now on you'll be fishing for people." And as soon as they landed, they left everything and followed Jesus. This is a story certainly about many things, but one of the things I think this story is about is a great love. And again, just to be clear, I'm not talking about sentimental, romantic love. That's not what I'm referring to here. I'm talking about generosity and kindness and belonging, these actual concrete expressions of love. Because this story has all of those things. It has the generosity of God, this miraculous, awe-inspiring catch of fish, which may just sound smelly and kind of slimy to us, but to these guys was the most unbelievable thing imaginable. They had just been out working all night. It's interesting, isn't it, that there are so many fish that they almost sink into the water itself. Hang on to that. It's an interesting parallel to the other story we're going to look at. But there's this deep, profound generosity, and there's also in this story great belonging. You know, Peter and his brothers decide to leave everything and belong to, become a part of this, I don't know, group, this collection of people, this community that Jesus is forming. And they find, as being the most average of humans, as you know, the most kind of blue-collar people you could imagine, they end up students of a rabbi. Unimaginable. I know to us it doesn't seem like anything, but this was unimaginable to them. And here they were, belonging to something maybe bigger than they ever thought they could be a part of. Great love can come to us in these really dramatic moments, like in this story, when we have these huge catches of fish, or a newborn's cry fills the delivery room, or shouts of joy erupt as a couple walk down the aisle. We have these moments in our lives when there's this dramatic inbreaking of love, and it catches us. It can anyway, kind of catch us and maybe even shake us a little loose. But great love can also show up in very ordinary moments, like when you're standing at the kitchen window and you catch the sky afire at sunset, and you're stopped in your tracks by the beauty of it. Or someone who's dear to you, you exchange a look, no words said, just a look between someone you love, and it says, I see you, I love you, you belong to me, I belong to you. These moments happen in our lives, and they can do something to us. They can spark a journey of transformation. This is what happens to Peter, of course. The whole trajectory of his life shifts, changes course because of this moment of great love, great generosity, great belonging. He's not the same because of it. Back when I was in college, I took a class, a biochemistry class, which I loved. It's the combining of biology, human biology, and chemistry. It's a class that tries to understand and explain how our bodies work on a very molecular level. And there was one day in a giant lecture hall where we were learning about the sodium-potassium pump pictured here, which already I've lost half of you because some of you could care less about this. But maybe some of you, this might be interesting, you know. And don't worry, I won't get into it much. But there's this pump in most cell membranes in your body that simply moves sodium and potassium in and out so that you have the right balance of each inside the cells and outside of the cells. And you may say, who cares? Well, you do, because this thing ensures that your heart beats and that your kidneys function and that your neurons fire. If you don't have the right balance of sodium and potassium, none of those things happen. And so I was sitting in class learning about this sodium-potassium pump, and all of a sudden the lecture kind of faded. And I found myself in this moment of realizing that inside of my body was this incredibly, it sounds simple, it's wildly complex. We actually don't really understand we kind of understand how it works, but not really. Inside of me is this wildly complex and yet mundane, it's in practically every cell in your body, thing that's at work keeping me alive. And I was like, how is this possible? That I wasn't even aware. And what about all the other things I'm not even aware of that are happening in me? And how did this happen? How did such complexity arise? And how did it all come together in order for me to be sitting in this seat in this lecture hall, breathing and writing and learning? It was really this moment for me of great, what I would call now, great love. How am I here? How are any of us here? I mean, I kind of went, boom, into these deep questions. I think everyone else just kept on taking notes, but I was somewhere else for a moment or two, at least. And it changed me. As strange as it sounds, the sodium-potassium pump changed me, that lecture that day, because it made me wonder questions about myself. What do I not understand about who I am? Not just on the molecular level, but broadly speaking. And what might I not understand about who God is and about the way in which this world has come together through this creative, loving God? How all of those questions kind of got stirred up in this moment of great love. And so I think Rohr might be right. At least I've found it to be right. Sometimes in my life. Maybe you can pinpoint some spots, too, where this has been true, where great love has changed you, when it has kind of shaken something loose in you. It has woken you up to deeper realities. It's created questions and stirred up longings and wonderings within you. This is possible. And I love it when great love can be the spark that moves me towards transformation. But of course, it's not just great love, it's also great suffering. Both are at play here. Transformation can come from both of these things. And here's another story we'll look at together here for a moment. This is from Matthew 14. Jesus has been teaching, and immediately after this, he insisted that his disciples get back into the boat and cross to the other side of the lake. This is the Sea of Galilee. While he sent the people home. And after sending them home, he went up into the hills by himself to pray. Night fell while he was there alone. Meanwhile, the disciples were in trouble far away from the land, for a strong wind had risen, and they were fighting heavy waves. About 3 o'clock in the morning, Jesus came toward them, walking on the water. And when the disciples saw him walking on the water, they were terrified. In their fear, they cried out, "It's a ghost." But Jesus spoke to them at once. "Don't be afraid," he said. "Take courage. I am here." And then Peter called to him, "Lord, if it's really you, tell me to come to you walking on the water." "Yes, come," Jesus said. So Peter went over the side of the boat and walked on the water toward Jesus. But when he saw the strong wind and the waves, he was terrified and began to sink. "Save me, Lord," he shouted. Jesus immediately reached out and grabbed him. "You have so little faith," Jesus said. "Why did you doubt me?" Suffering, one potential definition of suffering is any time when we are not in control. When we are not in control. Another way to perhaps say that would be when we've reached the end of ourselves. When we've come to the end of our abilities, when we've come to the end of our skills, when we've come to the end of our cleverness, and we don't have anything left to navigate what is in front of us, that might be a decent definition of suffering. Because it's then that we usually don't feel all that in control, when we reach the end of ourselves. It's also the time when we often double down to try and scrap and claw any amount of control we can get. But if we can be open, these are moments when we can admit maybe we're not as in control as we usually think we are. Maybe we don't have everything we need to navigate this life by ourselves. These can be moments of transformation. And every human being knows these types of moments. Moments when it feels like we are sinking. It's interesting, again, that in this story, Peter begins to sink. In the first story, there's also a sinking happening that causes great concern. Even in the face of great love, there can be a sense of being overwhelmed and maybe even being taken over, overcome by something. Here, Peter first does take a few steps out on the water. Kudos to him. You know, it's further than I would have gotten. But then he looks around, feels the wind, the splash of the water, the wave approaching, and it's too much. He begins to sink. This is normal. It is normal that we have moments and even seasons in our lives when it feels like what we have to offer, what we have to give, isn't enough. When we reach the end of ourselves, this is normal. I wish it wasn't. I wish we had everything we needed all the time and could, easily overcome any obstacle by ourselves. There'd be something that seems really nice about that, but it just doesn't seem to be the case. Eventually, life is going to throw something at you that is too much to handle by yourself. When that happens, we have a choice, of course, about what we do. And I've already mentioned one option is to try and double down and claw and scrape together any sense of control we can get. The other is to open ourselves up to something new. It's actually possible for these moments when we reach the end of ourselves, it's actually possible for them to be a beginning. I imagine that Peter remembered this moment on the water till his dying breath. He probably thought about what he might have done differently. Maybe he reflected on those final questions that Jesus asked him there. My hunch is that this was a formative moment for Peter. And we don't know for sure, but you know moments in your life when you've reached the end of yourself, and you know that those moments do offer an opportunity. I think you do. We often don't know it in the moment. It's only with hindsight that we can look back and see, oh, wow, that difficulty, those questions, that painful thing even was the beginning of something new. It wasn't easy. Again, I wished it wasn't the case. But when we find ourselves in those spaces, it's there that we can be open. Our ego can be quiet enough that we can be receptive to something new taking shape in us. And I bet you've seen that in your life. Maybe you also can look back and see the doubling down efforts. That would be very normal too. I know I can. When we reach the end of ourselves, it's a chance for a new beginning because in many ways we have little choice but to rely on someone else. When life is good and manageable, it's manageable. You don't need anyone else. But when you bump up against those things that make you realize, I'm at the end of what I have, your ego might then maybe be willing to say, I need help. This is what Peter does. So Peter went over the side of the boat, walked on the water toward Jesus, but when he saw the strong wind and the waves, he was terrified and began to sink. "Save me, Lord," he shouted, and Jesus immediately reached out and grabbed him. "Save me, Lord." Peter realizes he has no choice but to cry for help, but to rely on someone else. He alone is not enough here. He's reached the end of what he has in this moment. And when we reach the end of ourselves, if we too can say, "I need help. Save me. I don't have what I need," something then again, to say it again, gets kind of shaken loose in us, and something new can take root. It is normal to reach the end of yourself. And I just want to say that one more time, especially maybe to our graduates, but to everyone. But maybe especially to our graduates, because you're at this season of life where the future seems at least to have some potential, you know. And there is a story out there that your life is supposed to be full of pleasure and easy, and your trajectory is supposed to be nothing but straight up. If you work hard and if you do the right things and go to the right school or get the right job or whatever, but this is like life. This is life. There's a story out there that tells you that this is the case. But it's not the case. Life is not this. It's, as we drew a few weeks ago, it's really squirrely. It's all over the place, twists and turns. It's not this. There are moments and seasons of what feel like a plateau. There are even times when it feels like you're going backwards. This is normal. And I want to say that to you because if you don't know that it's normal, then when you reach those moments, you're going to feel potentially like there's something wrong with you. There's nothing wrong with you. Maybe you haven't always made the best choices. That's possible. We certainly can have that happen. But it is normal to reach the end of yourself. Life is going to give you things you cannot handle on your own. So just know that. Know that now, so that maybe you're not so surprised or disillusioned when those things arise. Because I bet even the oldest here among us would say that they still feel the temptation to believe that life is this. It's a strong, strong story in our culture. But it's not true. So, if it isn't true, if we will reach the end of ourselves, then what are we to do when that happens? And I think Peter is a pretty good person to look at in this instance. He cries out for help. This is so hard to do, especially when you're young. I'm going to come back to graduates again, but it's true your whole life. Because again, the story is that you're supposed to have your act together. And then when you don't, how can you ask for help? How could you let someone else know that you need help? It just goes against everything that we're told. But friends, this is like the only way forward. This is the only way to health and wholeness, is to ask for help from people who you love and trust. And in this story, we see Peter asking for help from Christ. And what's interesting is that Jesus immediately reaches out and grabs him. It's a sentence that maybe we could kind of quickly read past, but it might actually be the most important thing for us to reflect on, given all the other things we've talked about over these weeks. In every story, this one and every one of Peter's, Jesus is there offering support and correction, instruction, care. And we certainly see it here, immediately reaching out and taking hold of Peter, saying to him, I will not let you go under. And more than that, I will walk with you. I will get in the boat with you and show you where to cast your nets. I will teach you, I will listen to you, I will challenge you to walk out further. And then as Jesus says to his disciples, his final words in the book of Matthew, I will be with you always. And we talked about a lot of things in this series, a lot of different principles and ideas around how we change and grow. But again, this may very well be the most important. To remember that no matter how many twists and turns your life takes, no matter what kinds of great love you experience or great suffering, you are never alone. Figuring that out or living into that is one of the most challenging things to do, I think. But this promise kind of keeps coming back again and again in the scriptures. And if you talk to probably anyone around here who's been at this thing for a while, they'll tell you that this is one of the hardest things to believe, and yet somehow it's true. That the divine presence is always with us. So, I want to invite all of us to remember this promise. Even when the waves of difficulty come, and come they will, even when the winds threaten to blow us over, and they will, even when our nets are full and we're amazed and overjoyed, in all moments Christ is with us. It's certainly something that we remind each other of every week when we come to this meal. In fact, this meal, I think you could say, is all about presence. A reminder that Christ is with us. And more than that, somehow mysteriously, in us. Teresa preached on this last week. It really is a mystery. How is that possible? I don't really know. I can explain the sodium-potassium pump better than I can explain that reality. And yet, here it is. Every time we come to this table, this promise that Christ is with us and in us, the divine presence always with us. And Jesus gives us these things that actually go into our bodies. Interesting, right? Could have given us a topical ointment, could have said, just look at that thing over there and let it remind you of me. He says instead, no, take something and put it into your body. I think that's worth thinking about. So, these children have come back at the perfect time because now they can share in this meal with us. We're going to need a few folks to help serve, as is typically the case. And as is typically the case, we'll have a few people up front, including a gluten-free option up front here, a couple people in the back. Final thing I'll say, Christ may be with us always, but Christ never forces himself on us. This meal, we are never forced into taking. So, know you're invited, but there's no expectation. If you would rather stay in your seat, please do that this morning. If you'd rather go out for a walk in the sunshine, do that. Do whatever would be most meaningful to you in connecting with this promise that Christ is with you. Okay. Volunteers, who's willing to help serve communion this morning? If you'd be willing to come on up, that would be great. You need 4 people ideally. I'd even take 5. Got a couple, there they come, we're at 4. Give me 4, do I have 5? No? Okay. Beautiful. Isaiah, you want to go in the back with these? How do you feel about that? It's a tall task to carry it, but I believe in you. Chris, blessings to you as you share that. So are you going to take those? Thank you. Thanks, Mike. Friends, these are the gifts of God for you, the people of God. Let's share in them together now. And you can take these back to your seat just so you know, and we'll eat and drink them together. Isaiah, you want to put it down? Perfect. And for you, Mike, the body of Christ. Sarah, the cup of blessing for you. If you're at home, we hope that you've had the chance to grab whatever you might need to join in with us. You can feel this, yes? Touch this. You'll taste it in a moment. Smell it. It's this tangible gift that helps make concrete something that isn't quite so tangible in the same way. This is the gift of it, is it helps bring into reality this promise that God is always with us. Let's take and eat, remembering that. And as we eat and drink, we remember the promise that we are changed, that God meets us so that we might move into deeper waters. Let's remember that promise as we drink this cup. Gifts indeed. We'll pass these little baskets around and you can place the cups in there. We're nearing the end of our time. We're going to close our time with a short song here in just a moment that speaks to what we've been talking about today. Good song choice, by the way. Well done. That's as if you and I talk and plan things occasionally. Yep. Before that, though, I want to invite Sarah to come on up. Sarah is one of our elders, and we have been sharing for the last month. Exactly. Applause is definitely worth giving. We've been sharing the last month about this document Sarah has in her hands. There are a few more copies of it out there on the kiosk. This is our attempt, I'll say one more time, to focus our energy. To say, as a community, with a finite amount of energy and time, what are we going to focus those things on? And what are we going to try and move toward? So Sarah's going to share a little bit here about the last page of this document, which is a goal that we've identified here for us this year. Yeah.
Okay. So one of our goals for 2024 is to welcome 5 new households to the branch. So you might be saying, why is that important to the leadership team that we make that a goal? Well, there are a couple different reasons. One is, as everyone knows, we're a fairly small community, which is beautiful in so many ways. We've been able to share in each other's lives, but it's also not sustainable as a church to stay insular and to only have us without adding new members. And so in order to be the community we want to be, we need to be able to welcome new people into this space with their unique gifts, their unique personalities, to grow and to be with us. Another reason is that because as part of a faith community and as part of followers of Jesus, we believe that we are to be welcoming. We are to be in our communities and offering our community something unique. And so as a body of Christ, we want to be people that are inviting others into the community that we have. And so so as we think about that, as we go forth, as you think about people in your life, as you think about the world you live in your sphere of the world, are there people that we could be, or we could be a place of safety, could be a place of growth. And so we know that there are people that are looking. We know there are people that are desiring community. And we hope to be a church that's authentic, a place that you can ask hard questions, that you can wrestle with doubt. And there are a lot of people that are really struggling with that. And as we think about this year coming up especially, there are a lot of issues in the world. There are a lot of issues in our nation that people are struggling with. And so we want to be a place that we can ask those questions, that we can seek together. So how do we make this a reality? And so part of that is what Chris and other leaders have talked about before, and that's we want to try to increase our visibility. We're going to try to empower our young people, our youth, and we want to make pathways for connection here at the branch. So those are our hopes for this year.
Yeah.
Did I leave anything?
Nailed it. No, thank you.
Yeah,
thank you so much. It feels always a little odd to have a goal like that. Not always. It's not like we've always had a goal like that. We have had a goal like this, though, prior to COVID. We identified then, I think we identify even more now, this need to be intentional. You say, why a goal? Why 5 households? Listen, it could be 7, it could be 15. The number really isn't important. What we're trying to do in naming that goal is be intentional about doing certain things that would make this a welcoming and inclusive place. That's what it boils down to. So that's where we're headed. It's what we're going to try and spend really what is now, 6.5 months left of this year to pay attention to. And we're already sharing ways that you can join us in that, and there will be more to come in the weeks ahead. All right. Thank you again. We're going to sing this simple song here to close. Teresa's going to lead us in it. Why don't we stand to do that? And it speaks again to this promise and this prayer around Christ's presence with us.
Christ be with me, Christ before me, Christ behind me, Christ within me, Christ below me, Christ above me, Christ be with me. At my right hand, at my left hand, as I lie down, as I rise up, as I stumble, as I fall down, Christ, as I stand. Christ in the hearts of everyone who thinks of me. Christ in the mouth of everyone who thinks of me. Christ in every eye that sees me, Christ in every ear that hears me.
This morning we've had this great privilege of celebrating these people who are transitioning, who are moving through this threshold. And it made very clear to me how thankful I am for this community of people of which these graduates are a part. I feel like, I know what it is to be Peter sinking in the world, and I know how important you all are to me not going under. I mean that very literally. This community has been a lifeline to me at times, and I wonder if maybe that's true for some of you as well. And so as we celebrate graduates, we experience this great love, and I know that in this room there's probably stories of great suffering and difficulty this week, and in both of those things we journey together, and I'm so grateful for that. So thanks for being here today and for being a part of it. Here's a blessing as we go into this week. May you be people who are aware of God's presence with you, and in being aware of that presence, are able to receive what God has to give you, which is love, great love, and then give it away to those in your spheres of influence. Be those people this week. Amen. Thanks, everybody. Good to see you.
There's also cake. Graduates, you get first dibs, so make sure you get there fast. Enjoy. popping in.